really want to invest in... Hey! Get off your phone this instant! What did I tell you about food in my class? We've been here for all of 3 minutes and you ate an entire Jimmy John sandwich. Are you kidding me right now? Come on. Hey! Get off the memes, wake up, and let's focus on this schoolwork, okay? All right, now, the obvious thing you want to do, invest in the markets when their prices are skyrocketing, okay? You want to do that because there's lots of money to be made in this situation, all right? They're not listening. Oh, hey, didn't see you there. Obviously, these students, they don't want to listen to me talk about saving, investment, or the financial system, so I'd like to tell you guys about it instead. Please, enjoy this quick 7-minute video explaining all these situations. Thanks, have a good one.
Chapter 13, Saving, Investment, and the Financial System. I'm Sarah.
I'm Andy.
I'm Jay.
And I'm Keegan.
Let's get started.
The financial system. Today we're going to talk about how you match one person's savings with another person's investment. And we're going to show you how the economy coordinates saving and investment.
So we're going to start off by explaining two financial markets. The first one is the bond market. A bond is identified as a certificate of indebtedness that specifies the obligations of the borrower to the holder of the bond. The government or a corporation will issue a bond to a lender. More simply put, bonds can be used as an IOU. The date of maturity identifies the time at which the loan will be repaid. The interest rate uses periods of payment until the loan matures. Some characteristics of a bond. The term length. Long-term bonds are more riskier than short-term bonds. The credit risk is the probability that the borrower will fail to pay the interest or principal. A bond defaults when a bond cannot be repaid from a lender. The sale of a bond is referred to as the debt finance. Next, we have the stock market. A stock is identified as a partial claim to the ownership of a firm. It is a claim to the profits that the firm makes. The sale of a stock to raise money is known as the equity finance. After issuing shares of stocks, these are traded among other stockholders. Organized stock exchanges include the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ. Prices of the stock are determined by the supply and demand. The demand for a stock is the people's perception of the corporation's future profitability. So in other words, if a potential stockholder sees that a company is going to financially thrive in the near future, they are more likely to invest in the stocks of this specific company. The stock index is the average of a group of stock prices, and the most famous is the Dow Jones Industrial Average.
Next, we have financial intermediaries. The first we have is banks, which is the most familiar to you or I. Banks take in deposits from people who want to save. They use these deposits to make loans to issue to people who want to borrow. Banks also pay depositors interest on their savings. They also charge borrowers higher interest on their loans. The difference in these two interest rates cover the cost of banks and returns some of the profits to the bank's owners. Banks also facilitate purchases. Banks allow people to write checks against their deposits and access their deposits with debit cards. Example, a medium of exchange. It is an item that people can easily exchange in transactions. Next, we have mutual funds. A mutual fund is an institution that sells shares to the public and uses the proceeds to buy a selection of stocks and bonds. This is also known as a portfolio. Some of the advantages of mutual funds are diversification. In layman's terms, this is not putting all of your money in one basket. This also gives ordinary people access to the skills of professional money managers. These managers are in charge of overlooking the mutual funds that the people have their money invested into.
Next, we're going to talk about the market for loanable funds. The supply and demand for loanable funds. The supply are the people who have extra income they want to save and lend out. This happens directly when a household buys a bond from a firm, and this happens indirectly when a household makes a deposit in a bank. They then use the funds to make loans. The demand for loanable funds are the people or firms who wish to borrow to make investments. This happens when households take out mortgages or when firms want new funds or funds for new equipment and new facilities. The interest rate is the price of a loan.
Policy Number one is savings incentives. So savings is an important long-run determinant of a nation's productivity because if one is able to save, odds are they are more productive. The low rate of savings is due to the tax laws, which are discouraging savings. Economists and politicians are proposing a reformed tax code to encourage greater savings. This can be shown in the graph below with the increase in the supply curve by moving to the right for the tax increasing the productivity, which decreases the interest rate, but also increases the equilibrium quantity of loanable funds. Policy number two is investment incentives. This can be shown in investment tax credit, which gives tax advantage to any firm wanting to build a new factory or buying a new piece of equipment, also known as investing in their company. So this is shown in the graph below with an increase in demand moving to the right, which increases the equilibrium interest rate and also increases the quantity of loanable funds. Policy number three is government budget deficits and surpluses. Budget deficit is when government spending is in excess over the tax revenue. This is financed by borrowing in the bond market, and government debt is defined as the accumulation of past government borrowing. Budget surplus is the excess of tax revenue over government spending. This can be used to repay some of the government debt, and when government spending is equal to the tax revenue, this is known as a balanced budget. This can be shown in the graph to the right. When supply decreases or moves to the left, the interest rate increases, yet the quantity of loanable funds decreases.
In conclusion, this has been a quick overview of Chapter 13, relating to savings and investments along with the financial market. We hope you have learned something and will now make better decisions with your money. Thank you for watching.